Dr. Hayes stared at the data streaming from the virus that Captain Morrison's crew had planted in the Valdorian computer systems. For 3 days he had worked without sleep analyzing the alien technical specifications, and what he discovered would change everything. The information revealed not just how advanced their technology was, but more importantly, how it could be defeated. Lisa Park joined the research team and brought her engineering expertise to understanding alien systems. Together they found the fatal flaw in Valdorian perfection. Their technology was incredibly advanced but designed by beings who had never faced true chaos or unpredictable situations. Every system was optimized for efficiency and logical operation, but vulnerable to random events. General Frank Cooper arrived at the research facility with news that Valdorian advance fleets were moving toward major human colonies. The 30-day deadline had passed and the aliens were beginning their conquest as promised. However, the information from Dr. Hayes gave Cooper an idea that might turn humanity's greatest weakness into their strongest weapon. The breakthrough came when Dr. Amy Rodriguez analyzed medical scans from Morrison's encounter with the aliens. Human stress hormones and neural patterns actually interfered with Valdorian harmonic communication systems. Under extreme pressure, humans became unpredictable enough to disrupt alien coordination. The more desperate the situation became, the more effective this interference would be. Cooper immediately began implementing guerrilla warfare tactics across human space. Instead of meeting Valdorian fleets in conventional battles, human forces would use hit-and-run strategies. They would turn asteroid fields, solar storms, and even black holes into weapons against an enemy that expected logical military responses. The first test came when Admiral Zexthor's fleet approached the mining colony on Ceres. The human defenders had evacuated most civilians but left behind a volunteer force of miners and engineers who knew the asteroid better than anyone. They used mining charges and industrial equipment to create traps that no military computer would predict. Captain Sandy Murphy commanded the ragtag defense force with ships that were officially decommissioned and crews that were supposedly too old for active duty. Her fleet included cargo haulers, mining vessels, and even passenger transports that had been converted into improvised warships. The Valdorians expected an easy victory against such primitive opposition. The battle began, exactly as alien tactical computers predicted, with human forces being outgunned and outmaneuvered by superior technology. But something unexpected happened when the situation became hopeless. Instead of surrendering, the humans began fighting with increasing desperation and creativity that confused their perfect enemy. Murphy ordered her cargo ships to ram alien vessels, while her miners used industrial lasers as weapons. When conventional tactics failed, they used damaged reactors as bombs and turned their own life support systems into improvised thrusters. Every action violated military logic, but somehow proved surprisingly effective against bewildered alien forces. The key moment came when stress levels among human crews reached critical points. Dr. Rodriguez had been monitoring their vital signs and confirmed that extreme pressure was generating the neural patterns that interfered with Valdorian communications. The aliens began losing coordination as human desperation reached its peak. Engineer Tony Blake led a team that hijacked alien drones and reprogrammed them using chaotic human logic rather than efficient alien algorithms. The converted machines began attacking their former masters with unpredictable tactics that Valdorian computers could not counter. Even their own technology was turning against them when infected with human creativity. Admiral Zexthor found his perfect military machine struggling against an enemy that did not follow any logical patterns. His ships were designed for efficient warfare against rational opponents, but humans seemed to grow more dangerous as their situation became more desperate. Their behavior made no sense according to any known military doctrine. The turning point came when Murphy's flagship was severely damaged and losing life support. Instead of evacuating, she ordered her remaining crew to use the dying ship as a guided missile aimed at the Valdorian command vessel. The action would accomplish nothing except buying a few more minutes for other human ships to escape. But those few minutes were enough for Dr. Hayes' latest discovery to prove its worth. Human desperation was generating so much neural chaos that it was actually overloading alien communication systems. The perfectly coordinated Valdorian fleet began making mistakes as their harmonic network suffered interference from human stress patterns. The impossible happened when Murphy's ancient cargo haulers and mining ships began inflicting serious damage on alien vessels. Not through superior firepower, but by using tactics so unpredictable that Valdorian defensive systems could not adapt fast enough. They were fighting most effectively when everything seemed lost. Cooper received reports that similar victories were occurring throughout human space. Colonial militia forces armed with improvised weapons were defeating alien landing parties through sheer stubborn refusal to accept logical surrender. Every human defeat somehow made the survivors fight harder and more creatively. Lisa Park made another crucial discovery while analyzing captured alien equipment. Valdorian technology required constant harmonic synchronization to function properly. When exposed to chaotic human neural patterns for extended periods, their systems began developing what could only be described as electronic nervous breakdowns. The medical implications were even more significant according to Dr. Rodriguez's research. Humans who survived prolonged combat with aliens showed increased resistance to their harmonic weapons. Extended exposure to Valdorian technology was actually making human nervous systems stronger and more unpredictable. News of these victories spread throughout human space and reached other species under Valdorian domination. The Korthak traders, Zephyrian philosophers, and aquatic Delians began sending secret messages, asking how humans had achieved the impossible. Word was spreading that the perfect alien empire could be beaten. Admiral Gray coordinated the resistance efforts from Earth while preparing for the inevitable Valdorian counterattack. She knew their victories had cost heavily in human lives but proved something that no computer simulation had predicted. The aliens could be defeated by beings who refused to accept logical limits on what was possible. The most important lesson came from Dr. Hayes' analysis of human behavior under extreme stress. Their species had evolved to find strength in adversity and hope in hopeless situations. What the Valdorians saw as primitive chaos was actually humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage. Captain Morrison returned from his mission with news that changed everything. Admiral Zexthor was requesting reinforcements because his perfect conquest was turning into a chaotic nightmare that defied all logical prediction. For the first time in their history, the Valdorians were facing an enemy that grew stronger when broken and fought harder when beaten. The stage was set for the final confrontation between two completely different philosophies of existence. Valdorian, perfection and efficiency, would face human chaos and stubborn refusal to surrender when everything seemed lost. Captain Morrison looked at his volunteer crew aboard the USS Defiance and wondered if they were all insane. Every computer simulation predicted their mission would end in disaster, but here they were preparing to infiltrate the most powerful alien ship in the galaxy. His new crew included veterans from every major human conflict of the past 50 years. Pilot Danny Chang had survived the Titan Rebellion when colonial forces held out against impossible odds for 6 months. Weapons specialist Karen Wells came from the Mars Defense Corps and had fought in the brutal asteroid wars where supplies were scarce and death was common. Engineer Tony Blake had helped rebuild stations after terrorist attacks and knew how to make broken systems work when replacement parts were impossible to find. The USS Defiance was humanity's newest prototype warship, but it looked primitive compared to Valdorian technology. The ship carried experimental weapons and armor that had never been tested in real combat. Morrison knew their equipment was inadequate, but it was the best humanity could provide for their desperate mission. Dr. Hayes had briefed them on his latest discovery about Valdorian psychology. The aliens had evolved on a peaceful world with abundant resources and no natural predators. Their society had eliminated violence, struggle, and unpredictable behavior through millions of years of careful breeding and social engineering. They were perfect beings who had never learned to fight when everything went wrong. The plan was simple in concept, but nearly impossible to execute. They would approach the alien command ship disguised as a disabled transport vessel. When the Valdorians investigated, they would plant a data collection virus in their computer systems. The information gathered might reveal weaknesses that could be exploited in future battles. Morrison ordered his crew to battle stations as they approached the massive alien vessel. The Valdorian ship was even larger up close and seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. Sensors showed no weapons or defensive systems, but that meant nothing when dealing with technology beyond human understanding. The alien ship detected their approach immediately and began scanning the Defiance with invisible energy beams. Morrison ordered his crew to begin their deception by shutting down non-essential systems and broadcasting a distress signal. They needed the Valdorians to believe they were harmless refugees seeking help rather than military infiltrators. Admiral Zexthor responded to their signal with typical alien efficiency. He informed Morrison that his ship would be examined and his crew processed according to Imperial regulations. The alien seemed genuinely puzzled when Morrison requested permission to make repairs before submitting to Valdorian authority. The first sign of alien confusion came when Engineer Blake began working on their damaged engines. Instead of using proper repair procedures, he improvised solutions with spare parts and emergency supplies. The Valdorian technical experts who were monitoring his work could not understand why he was ignoring their efficient suggestions for fixing the problems. Danny Chang added to their bewilderment by flying the ship in erratic patterns that violated every principle of safe navigation. When questioned, he explained that the damaged engines were unpredictable and required constant manual corrections. The alien pilots found his behavior irrational and inefficient, but could not argue with the results. The situation escalated when Valdorian security teams boarded the Defiance to conduct their examination. Karen Wells had hidden weapons throughout the ship, but not in the logical places that alien scanners would expect to find them. Her preparation seemed chaotic and random, but every item was positioned for maximum tactical advantage. Dr. Hayes' virus was hidden in the ship's medical computer disguised as patient records and treatment protocols. The alien technicians who examined the system found the human medical data to be primitive and disorganized compared to their own perfect databases. They dismissed it as unimportant and allowed their systems to automatically catalog the information. The crisis began when a Valdorian officer discovered that the Defiance was actually a military vessel rather than a civilian transport. Morrison's crew was ordered to surrender immediately, but instead they began fighting with desperate fury that shocked their captors. The aliens had expected logical submission once their deception was revealed. Tony Blake rerouted power from life support systems to overload their engines, creating an unstable reactor that could explode at any moment. This action made no sense to Valdorian engineers who would never risk destroying their own ship. They tried to stop him, but Blake had sabotaged the safety systems in ways their perfect technology could not predict. Karen Wells turned the ship's cargo bay into a weapon by explosive charges from medical supplies and maintenance equipment. The aliens could not understand why she would destroy valuable resources when logical surrender would preserve both lives and property. Their tactical computers failed to predict her actions because they violated every principle of rational behavior. Danny Chang flew the crippled Defiance directly at the alien command ship in what appeared to be a suicidal ramming attack. The Valdorian pilots moved to intercept, but could not anticipate his erratic flight path. He was not following any known combat doctrine and seemed to be making decisions based on pure desperation rather than tactical planning. Admiral Zexthor watched the battle with growing confusion as the human crew fought harder as their situation became more hopeless. When their weapons failed, they used maintenance tools. When their shields collapsed, they vented atmosphere to create impromptu thrusters. Every action violated the logical response to overwhelming force. The final moments of the battle came when Morrison realized they could not escape or win through conventional means. Instead of surrendering, he ordered his crew to ram their ship into the Valdorian reactor core. The action would accomplish nothing except giving Dr. Hayes' virus a few more seconds to copy alien technical data. The collision severely damaged the Defiance, but the alien ship's automated repair systems quickly fixed any problems. Morrison and his surviving crew were captured and held in Valdorian detention cells. Their mission appeared to be a complete failure, with no significant damage to enemy capabilities. Admiral Zexthor interrogated Morrison personally, trying to understand why humans chose death over logical surrender. The alien admiral could not comprehend a species that grew more dangerous as their situation became more desperate. His perfect society had eliminated such chaotic behavior millions of years ago. Morrison explained that humans had evolved through constant struggle against predators, natural disasters, and limited resources. They had learned to fight hardest, when everything seemed lost, because giving up meant extinction. The concept of logical surrender was foreign to beings who had survived by refusing to accept defeat. The captured crew of the Defiance was eventually released as a gesture of Valdorian mercy. Admiral Zexthor could not understand their motives but recognized they posed no real threat to his overwhelming technological superiority. He allowed them to return to Earth as a demonstration of imperial benevolence. Unknown to the aliens, Dr. Hayes' virus had successfully infiltrated their computer systems and was quietly copying technical specifications and operational procedures. The information would prove invaluable, but first humanity had to survive long enough to use what they had learned about their seemingly invincible enemy. Admiral Helen Gray sat in the emergency meeting room at Earth Defense Command and listened to Captain Morrison's report with growing alarm. The holographic display showed the massive alien ship and played recordings of Admiral Zexthor's demands. Around the table sat the most important military and political leaders of humanity, but none of them had answers for the crisis they now faced. President Maria Santos asked the question everyone was thinking. How could humanity fight an enemy with such advanced technology? The Valdorians had disabled the horizon without any visible attack, and their ships were larger and more powerful than anything humans had ever built. The 30-day deadline seemed like a death sentence rather than time to prepare a defense. Dr. Richard Hayes stood up to present his analysis of the alien encounter. He was the leading expert on alien life and had spent his career studying the possibility of contact with other species. What he had learned from the data collected by the Horizon crew painted a terrifying picture of human chances for survival. The Valdorian Empire controlled over 400 star systems according to their own broadcasts. Their technology was based on principles that human science barely understood, and their society had existed for thousands of years without major conflicts. They had never encountered a species that refused to submit to their rule because logical beings always chose survival over pointless resistance. Hayes explained that the aliens had evolved on a world with abundant resources and no natural threats. Their society valued efficiency and perfection above all other qualities. War and struggle were considered primitive behaviors that intelligent species should eliminate through proper planning and logical thinking. The Valdorians could not understand why any rational being would choose death over peaceful service to a superior civilization. The intelligence reports that followed made the situation even worse. Valdorian ships were powered by dark matter engines that could cross vast distances in days rather than months. Their hulls were made from materials that could shift between solid and energy states, making them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. Most frightening of all were their planet-cracking weapons that could split worlds apart from orbit. General Frank Cooper slammed his fist on the table and declared that humanity would not go quietly into slavery. He had fought in every major conflict of the past 30 years and refused to believe that any enemy was truly unbeatable. His words stirred some hope in the room, but even he admitted that conventional military tactics would be useless against such advanced technology. News of the alien ultimatum spread across human space within hours despite attempts to keep it classified. Panic broke out on dozens of colonies as people realized they faced extinction or enslavement. Some colonial governors tried to negotiate separate surrender deals with the Valdorians, while others began desperate evacuation procedures. The government on Mars declared independence from Earth and announced they would seek their own terms with the alien empire. Similar declarations came from mining stations in the asteroid belt and research colonies around distant stars. Humanity was fracturing, under pressure just when unity was most needed for survival. President Santos made a public broadcast, trying to calm the growing hysteria. She promised that Earth's best minds were working on a solution and called for all humans to stand together against the alien threat. Her words had little effect as riots broke out in major cities and refugee ships fled toward the edge of human space. Admiral Gray received reports that several colonies had already sent messages to the Valdorians offering complete surrender. The aliens had not responded to these attempts at negotiation, which suggested they intended to deal with humanity as a single unit rather than individual worlds. This meant that partial surrender was not an option, and the entire species would live or die together. Dr. Hayes made another disturbing discovery when he analyzed the psychological profiles of the Valdorian delegation. The aliens showed no signs of aggression or hatred toward humans. They viewed the conquest of humanity as a simple administrative task like organizing a filing system or updating a database. Humans were just another primitive species that needed to be brought into the empire for their own good. Intelligence. Analysts worked around the clock trying to find any weakness in Valdorian technology, but their efforts were frustrated by the complete lack of data. The aliens had shared no technical information, and their brief demonstration of power revealed nothing about how their systems actually worked. Human scientists were trying to solve a puzzle with most of the pieces missing. Meanwhile, Admiral Zexthor broadcast another message to all human worlds. He calmly explained that resistance was not only futile, but completely irrational. The Valdorian Empire offered humans safety, prosperity, and purpose under alien guidance. Their technology could eliminate disease, extend lifespans, and provide abundance for everyone. Why would any logical being choose death over such obvious benefits? To emphasize his point, the alien admiral used his ship's weapons to destroy an uninhabited moon in a distant system. The moon simply disintegrated without any visible beam or explosion. One moment it existed, and the next it was scattered dust floating in space. The demonstration showed that Valdorian weapons could destroy targets without leaving any trace of what had killed them. Captain Morrison volunteered to lead a reconnaissance mission to gather more intelligence on alien capabilities. His crew from the horizon supported the dangerous plan even though they knew it was likely a suicide mission. Admiral Gray approved the operation despite her doubts because humanity needed any information they could get about their enemy. The USS Horizon was refitted with the most advanced sensors and recording equipment available. If Morrison's mission failed, at least the data they collected might help future resistance efforts. The ship departed Earth carrying the hopes and fears of humanity into the unknown dangers of space. As the deadline approached, human civilization continued to fracture under pressure. Some leaders called for immediate surrender, while others demanded hopeless resistance. Religious groups proclaimed the aliens were either demons or angels depending on their interpretation of ancient texts. Scientists worked desperately to find technological solutions that might level the playing field. Dr. Hayes spent sleepless nights studying every detail of the alien encounter. He was convinced that the answer lay not in matching Valdorian technology, but in understanding their psychology. These beings had eliminated struggle and adversity from their evolution, which might have made them strong, but also predictable. Admiral Gray looked at the countdown timer showing days remaining until the alien deadline. Humanity had built an impressive civilization across dozens of star systems, but all of it seemed fragile when faced with truly superior technology. The question that haunted her was whether humans had any qualities that could overcome such overwhelming odds. The answer would come soon enough as time ran out and humanity faced the greatest challenge in their history. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and looked at the strange readings on his screen. The energy signals were unlike anything he had seen before in his 20 years of space travel. His ship was at the edge of human space, where few vessels dared to go. The area was known for its dangerous asteroid fields and unpredictable solar storms. Lisa Park walked up to him from her engineering station. She was the best engineer in the fleet and had saved the ship many times. With her quick thinking, her face showed worry as she handed him a data pad. The energy readings were getting stronger and seemed to be moving toward them. Ben Carter at the communication station suddenly looked up with wide eyes. He had been trying to identify the source of the signals for the past hour. His equipment was picking up something that made no sense to any human technology. The patterns were too complex and organized to be natural phenomena. Dr. Amy Rodriguez came onto the bridge from the medical bay. She had been studying the effects of deep space radiation on the crew, but the strange energy was interfering with her equipment. She told Morrison that whatever was out there was unlike anything in their databases. Morrison ordered all hands to battle stations. The crew of 200 men and women moved quickly to their positions. They had trained for many situations, but nothing had prepared them for what appeared on their main screen. A massive ship unlike any human design materialized out of nowhere. It was 3 times larger than the horizon, and seemed to be made of some kind of crystal material that glowed with inner light. The alien ship did not attack immediately. Instead, it sent a signal that Ben Carter was able to translate through the ship's computer. The message was simple but chilling. It demanded that the humans prepare to receive representatives of the Valdorian Empire. Morrison had never heard of any Valdorians, but he ordered his crew to be ready for anything. A smaller craft detached from the alien vessel and approached the horizon. Morrison decided to allow it to dock despite the protests from his security chief. He wanted to know what these aliens wanted and why they had come to human space. The docking bay was cleared of all non-essential personnel, and security teams took positions around the area. The alien beings that emerged were tall and thin, with crystalline skin that reflected light in strange patterns. They moved with perfect coordination as if they were parts of a single organism. Their leader was taller than the others, and wore what appeared to be symbols of rank on his chest. He spoke through a device that translated his harmonic language into English. Admiral Zexthor introduced himself as the commander of the Valdorian Advance Fleet. He explained that his people had been watching human expansion into space for several decades. The Valdorians considered themselves the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, and had ruled over hundreds of star systems for thousands of years. Morrison listened carefully as the alien admiral described his empire. The Valdorians had perfect technology that could manipulate matter and energy in ways humans could barely understand. Their society had eliminated war, poverty, and suffering through careful planning and logical thinking. They viewed themselves as the natural leaders of all intelligent life in the galaxy. The alien's message became clear when he presented Morrison with an official declaration. Humanity was ordered to submit to Valdorian rule within 30 standard days. All human colonies would become part of the empire, and humans would serve their new masters in whatever capacity was deemed most efficient. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of human civilization. Morrison tried to negotiate, but Admiral Zexthor showed no interest in discussion. The alien explained that this was not a request or an offer for alliance. It was simply notification of what would happen. The Valdorians had studied human technology and found it primitive compared to their own capabilities. They saw no reason why humans would choose destruction over logical submission. To demonstrate their superiority, the alien admiral gave a simple command to his ship. The Horizon's weapons and defense systems shut down instantly without any apparent attack. All the advanced human technology that Morrison's crew depended on stopped working as if someone had turned off a switch. The ship's engines went silent, and even the lights dimmed to emergency power levels. Lisa Park frantically tried to restore power from the engineering deck, but nothing responded to her commands. The alien technology had somehow taken complete control of their systems without any visible effect or damage. Dr. Rodriguez reported that life support was still functioning, but they were completely helpless against whatever the Valdorians had done to them. Admiral Zexthor calmly explained that this was just a small example of Valdorian capabilities. His people could destroy entire planets or simply make them uninhabitable with weapons that humans could not even detect. The choice facing humanity was simple: serve the Empire or face extinction. The aliens departed as suddenly as they had arrived. Their ship vanished from sensors, leaving only the disabled Horizon drifting in space. It took Lisa Park 6 hours to restore basic systems, and another day to get the engines working again. Whatever the Valdorians had done left no trace, but the message was clear. Morrison ordered the ship to return to Earth immediately. As they traveled through space, he thought about what they had learned. The alien empire was vast and powerful beyond human understanding. Their technology could disable human ships without effort, and they showed no interest in peaceful coexistence. Humanity had 30 days to decide between slavery and death. Ben Carter spent the journey trying to analyze the alien technology, but found no weaknesses or flaws in their systems. Dr. Rodriguez studied the medical scans she had taken of the Valdorians and discovered that they were unlike any life form in human databases. These beings had evolved on a world without predators or natural disasters and had never learned to fight for survival. As Earth came into view, Morrison knew that everything was about to change. The USS Horizon carried news that would shake human civilization to its core. An alien empire with godlike technology demanded submission, and humanity's leaders would have to decide the fate of their entire species. The captain looked at his crew and wondered if humans had any chance at all against such overwhelming odds. Admiral Helen Gray stood in the command center on Earth and watched the massive Valdorian fleet approaching the solar system. Admiral Zexthor had committed his entire force to destroy humanity's homeworld, believing that eliminating Earth would finally restore order to his perfect conquest. He could not have made a more dangerous mistake. News of human victories had spread throughout the galaxy, reaching species that had surrendered to Valdorian rule centuries ago. The Korthak traders sent secret supply shipments to human colonies, while Zephyrian philosophers provided intelligence about alien fleet movements. Even the peaceful Delians offered their underwater cities as refugee centers for human civilians. Dr. Hayes had made his most important discovery in the final days before Earth's invasion. The Valdorians' greatest strength was also their fatal weakness. Their society was so perfectly organized that they could not adapt to true chaos. When their plans failed, they did not improvise, but instead tried to recalculate better solutions that never came. The alien approach to warfare was like a perfect symphony where every note was planned in advance. Human resistance was like jazz music, where creativity and improvisation mattered more than following written scores. The two styles were completely incompatible, and only one could survive when they clashed. Captain Morrison had been promoted to Admiral and now commanded humanity's last defense fleet. His ships included everything from ancient cargo haulers to experimental prototypes that existed only because desperate engineers had ignored safety regulations. The fleet looked chaotic and disorganized, but that appearance was exactly what made it so dangerous. President Maria Santos made a final broadcast to all human worlds as the alien armada entered the solar system. She did not promise victory or even survival, but reminded her people that humanity had always been strongest when facing impossible odds. Their ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars by refusing to give up when everything seemed lost. The Battle of Sol began with Valdorian forces expecting to face the same desperate resistance they had encountered at other human colonies. Admiral Zexthor's tactical computers predicted victory within hours, followed by the systematic occupation of all remaining human worlds. The aliens had learned nothing from their previous defeats. Morrison's fleet met them beyond the orbit of Neptune with tactics that defied every principle of logical warfare. His ships attacked in random patterns that changed every few minutes while using weapons that were improvised from industrial equipment and civilian supplies. The aliens could not predict human actions because they were being invented in real time. The space around Earth became filled with the most chaotic battle in galactic history. Human fighters used damaged engines as guided missiles while cargo ships rammed alien vessels with loads of explosive mining charges. Every civilian craft became a weapon, and every weapon was used in ways that violated its original design specifications. Lisa Park coordinated the defense of Earth's orbital stations by turning them into massive improvised weapons platforms. Manufacturing facilities became missile launchers while research stations used their particle accelerators as energy cannons. Even the civilian space elevators were converted into kinetic bombardment systems. The turning point came when human casualties reached critical levels, and survivors began fighting with the desperate fury that only comes when everything has been lost. Dr. Rodriguez monitored stress levels throughout the human fleet and confirmed that neural chaos was reaching unprecedented intensity levels. Admiral Zexthor watched in growing horror as his perfect fleet began falling apart under the assault of human unpredictability. His ships were designed to fight efficient battles against rational enemies, but humans seemed to grow more dangerous with every defeat. They were celebrating their losses and finding strength in hopeless situations. The alien admiral made his final mistake when he ordered a direct assault on Earth itself. He believed that threatening humanity's homeworld would force them to accept logical surrender, but instead, he faced the most dangerous humans of all. People with nothing left to lose fought with creativity and desperation that broke his perfect military machine. General Cooper had prepared Earth's surface with defenses that no military academy would have approved. Civilian volunteers operated weapon systems while children helped coordinate communication networks. Retired soldiers came out of nursing homes to serve as tactical advisors. Everyone became part of the resistance effort. The battle in Earth's atmosphere saw passenger aircraft converted into fighters, while commercial satellites became orbital bombardment platforms. City defense grids were powered by everything from nuclear reactors to solar panel farms. Humans used their entire civilization as a weapon against the alien invasion force. Morrison led the final assault against Admiral Zexthor's flagship with a fleet composed entirely of volunteers flying damaged ships that should never have been spaceworthy. They approached the massive alien vessel singing old human songs and broadcasting messages of defiance that confused Valdorian communication systems. The climactic moment came when Morrison's own ship was destroyed, but he managed to ram the alien command bridge with his escape pod. The action accomplished nothing except proving that humans would fight to their last breath, rather than accept logical surrender. Admiral Zexthor finally understood what his empire was truly facing. Dr. Hayes' virus had been quietly spreading through Valdorian computer networks for weeks and finally activated when human neural chaos reached maximum intensity. Alien systems throughout the galaxy began experiencing electronic breakdowns as they were overwhelmed by chaotic human logic patterns that defied their perfect programming. The Valdorian Empire did not collapse, but something more important happened. Admiral Zexthor ordered a complete withdrawal from human space after realizing that his people could not comprehend or defeat an enemy that found strength in weakness and hope in despair. Other alien species throughout the galaxy watched in amazement as the perfect empire retreated from primitive humans who had defeated them through sheer stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. Rebellions began breaking out in systems that had been peaceful under Valdorian rule for centuries. The final victory came not through superior technology or military tactics, but through the indomitable human spirit that refused to be broken, no matter how hopeless the situation became. Humanity had proven that some things mattered more than logical efficiency or perfect planning. Admiral Zexthor recorded his final log entry before departing human space forever. He wrote that his people had calculated every variable except the one that mattered most. Some species grow stronger when broken, fight harder when beaten, and shine brightest when all hope seems lost. Logic dictated that humans should have surrendered, but no alien could match the human spirit. The galaxy became a more chaotic and dangerous place after humanity's victory, but it was also freer. Other species rediscovered their own capacity for rebellion and unpredictability. Perfect order gave way to the beautiful chaos of beings who dared to hope when hope was impossible. Captain Morrison looked out at the stars from his new position as head of Earth's expanding fleet, and reflected that humanity's greatest victory was not defeating the Valdorians, but proving that the galaxy still had room for the impossible, the illogical, and the indomitably human.